which is related to father. Okay. In today's class, we'll be talking about Father's Day, and I just kept it like a Father's Day doesn't have to be, particularly on that day, but it should be basically like your write up about a father. And a lot of you sent me an item in advance. So that's what we're going to talk about. So initially, as you know, I'm going to give you guys each of you opportunity to speak on that, and then we'll make some more progress on top of it. Folks who are watching live on YouTube, you can also follow along as we're making progress in the session. Throughout the session, I'll be asking a lot of questions, quizzes. Feel free to participate, make it an engaging session. So with that in mind, we're gonna start with Janet. Janet, I hope you're ready. So we'll give you an opportunity, so you can talk about Father's Day or father in general. So just give me 1 minute. Take your time. Go very slowly, so we can all understand you.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay. Me. But it was not correct at the end. But I'm going to read.
That's completely fine. Just follow along.
Okay. 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 Also, मेरा पिता को फादर्स डे कभी पसंद नहीं था। वह हमेशा कहते थे, हमारे एक ही पिता है, भगवान। मेरे पिता मजबूत सोच के थे। मेरे पति और मेरे ससुर को भी फादर्स डे पसंद नहीं है। वे हमेशा कहते हैं, पिता का दिन एक कमर्शियल दिन है, इसलिए मैं फादर्स डे के बारे में कुछ नहीं कह सकती हूँ, लेकिन मैं मेरे पिता के बारे में बोल सकती हूँ। मेरा पिताजी पेरू से है। वह लीमा में रहता था। जब वह जवान था, उसने मेक्सिको सिटी में गया। उस यहाँ मेरी माता से मिला। 2 साल के बाद उन्होंने चिहुआहुआ सिटी में गया। मेरा पिता एक बहुत बलवान आदमी है। वह I had forgotten how to say 80 in Hindi. Okay, he's 80 years old. हालांकि वह एक परदेशी एक अजीब देश में था और उसके अधिक समस्या मौसम के साथ पास था। उसने अनेक वादे किया। उसने कुछ अच्छे बिजनेसेस भी किया। हालांकि उसने हमारे साथ कुछ कभी समय बिताया। मेरे बहुत अच्छे यादगार है। वह उसके बौनिए और सोच पेशासान है और उसने मुझे योगा सिखाया।
Okay, very good.
Oh God, that was so long and so wrong.
No, not at all. It was a very good essay, actually. I have to say that I didn't get to look at. I looked at the later part, and we'll go over it. Like there were minor corrections, but overall, you did a pretty good job of coming up.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Yes, your turn now. So go very slowly. Just give me 1 minute just to make sure that you are not muted. Okay. Yes, you can go now.
Me? Okay. Sorry, I wasn't ready. Okay. मेरा पिताजी एक बहुत अच्छे आदमी थे। उन्होंने बैंक में काम किया। उन्होंने स्कूल बोर्ड, वॉलंटियर फायर डिपार्टमेंट और चर्च में भी काम किया। उनको अमेरिकन फुटबॉल और बेसबॉल देखना पसंद था। उन्हें फुटबॉल गेम में चेन गैंग का काम किया और बेसबॉल गेम में अंपायरिंग की। वह अपने बच्चों के सारे गेम और म्यूजिक कंसर्ट अटेंड करते थे। 4 बच्चे हैं तो बहुत खेल और कंसर्ट्स थे। वह साल 2000 में देहांत हो गया। मेरा माँ ने बचन दोस्त से फिर शादी की वह भी अच्छा आदमी थे.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
As
you.
I mentioned, there were minor things on the use of nay, but overall it was a very good essay. There was a use of nay which was missing, but I think you looked it up. And in this class, we'll go over how to use and when to use nay a little bit more
Great.
examples. So thanks so much. Uh, Give
Thank
me
you.
1 minute, and so Shamik, you can start whenever you are ready. You have to, yeah.
ओके मेरा ऐसे छोटा है
Mhm.
मेरा पिता मेरे पिता का नाम अंजय था लेकिन सब लोग उनको लेशक बुलाते थे वो फुटबॉल खेलने वाला था और अभी फुटबॉल कोच था ये अजीब बात है लेकिन वो मेरे साथ फुटबॉल नहीं खेलता था शायद वो जानता था कि मुझे फुटबॉल नहीं पसंद था वो उसके साथ जीवन का कठिन काम करता था वो उसका सब जीवन कठिन काम करता था इसलिए उनके अपने बच्चों के साथ खेलना बहुत वक्त नहीं था वो कई साल पहले मर गया
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, all of you. I'm really pleased that all of you attempted and you wrote, a very good write-up on your on Father's Day and fathers. As I told you in the second half of the class, what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna, go over, sample essay now. So in which I'll be using a lot of the sentences that you guys put together. And throughout the class, I'm going to go over the common mistakes that I have seen across all the essays, right? I mean, so that way you can really see and like improve on that, right? And I'm going to tell you, before I come up with the right sentence, I'm going to tell you the common mistakes are, so that way you will, sometimes you learn more from those, right? I mean, so that's the attempt of this class. And feel free to, ask me any questions throughout throughout this, the class. So the first one is name and all. You guys all did very well that describing the name of your father. First one is like my father is, let's say, from Peru. Okay, so as I'm writing the translation of it, feel free to start on your own. Feel free to write it as well. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you where the mistake here was, like So I'm gonna give you 30 seconds to write it first. Okay. So, in general, whenever you are writing my father, what I've seen, like, sometimes, some of you wrote Mera Pita Peru Se Hai. Okay. There's nothing wrong with the sentence. However, whenever, in general, any elders you want to give respect, any elder you're talking about, and even in general, if you want to give respect to like someone, you will kind of like you will kind of refer to them in a sense that they are plural, right? So it's basically mere pita peru se hai, or Peru se the. Okay, he was from Peru in this case, and he is from Peru in this case. Okay, so it's a common thing, but like throughout the essay, like whenever you're talking about like where he worked, one option would be you will refer to them as like वह, right, as a singular, वह, like he, or to give him respect you can refer to him as वे also, right, or वो, right, to give him respect. So that is a common thing, like and you will see that like whenever I write a sentence, you will see that the particular pattern. So I hope this is clear. Just to repeat that again, my father is from Peru is mere pita, or you can say pitaji, Peru se hai. And again, G is just to, just to give respect to to the person you're talking about, right? Mere pitaji Peru se hai. Right? So we'll go to the next sentence in the essay. So basically, I combined all of your essays and I made my own. So you won't even realize what I'm, which one I'm talking about, because I'll jump from, you know, Janet's essay to Liz, and from Liz to, Anya's. Okay. The second one is he worked in a bank. Okay. So I'm going to give you some more time here because this is not as straightforward. And again, I'm going to go over it. So take some time and write this sentence in Hindi. Translate it in Hindi. If you're good with the Hindi script, you can write it in Devanagari also. Okay. And folks who are watching, live on YouTube, you can also write it in the comments, and you can also translate the same. Okay. So two things, right? I mean, whenever you're writing this sentence, there are many variations to it, right? One would be he used to work in a bank. This one is rather simple to translate, right? He used to work in a bank because we follow the same pattern, which is a wo or way to give him respect. Bank में काम करते थे. As simple as that. Like this is for this one. He used to work in a bank. Used to will follow the same, the tense pattern that we generally use, right? I mean, in present indefinite, when you say I work, मैं काम करता हूँ, right? If I replace हूँ with था, मैं काम करता था, I used to work. When you say in a bank, it's bank में, right? But because we are talking about father, to give him respect, we'll say wo or ve, right? Um, Even if you say वह, like he, it's fine. There's nothing wrong there. So वह बैंक में काम करते थे. It's for he used to work in a bank. It gets trickier when you are, when you're translating this sentence. He worked in a bank, right? Now, basically, whenever you have a past, indefinite, a sentence in a past indefinite, and the verb that you're using, right? In this case, to work. To work is काम करना, right? That's when you have to see whether this verb is a transitive verb or intransitive verb, right? If you remember in one of the older lecture, I clarified the difference between the transitive verb and an intransitive verb, right? You have a transitive verb whenever you have a subject and verb and object. In Hindi is SOV, right? Subject, but whenever subject is doing any action on the verb, right? Object is receiving it, right? Whenever this is the case, you have a transitive verb. Okay. However, whenever any action that the subject is performing on the verb, there is none of the object is receiving it. It's called intransitive verb. Now, it could be very theoretical that how do we know the difference? So I'm going to spend some more time on it. Okay, so transitive verb could be, for example, in the past tense, if you're saying ate, or in the present you are writing eat. I eat a banana, right? So I is a subject, banana is the object, and eat is a verb, right? So I is a subject. Any action that I'm performing, the object is receiving it, right? Or similarly, I cook something, right? Or I tell, or I teach. There will be a object who is receiving this action directly, right? So anytime in Hindi you are using a transitive verb in the past tense, you will be using a postposition called ne with the pronoun. Okay. However, if you are using intransitive verbs such as I met or I cried or the book fell, okay, if you look at any of these sentences, right, subject is performing action of the verb, but like there's no object who is receiving this action, right? I met, मैं मिला, I cried, मैं रोया, the book fell, किताब गिरी, right? So whenever you have intransitive verbs in Hindi in the past tense, you will not be using ne, the postposition. Now come back to the original sentence that we have. And this is the common thing, and that's why use of name becomes really tricky, because like as a you know as a language learner, it's very difficult to determine like which word is that, right? There are some tricks around it. I'm gonna talk about it, right? So he worked. So think about if you were to kind of like convert this sentence into a question, you will convert into what did he do, right? That's a question corresponding to this particular sentence. So see, it is starting with what, right? Similarly, if the any sentence that you're trying to do, like for example, if the question is who did this assignment, for example, your sentence is like Agnes wrote an essay. If your corresponding question is who wrote the essay, okay, so anytime you have a corresponding interrogative sentence starting with what and who, there is a high likelihood that it's a transitive verb. Okay, right? For example, again, if I were to go back to some of the examples I used, for example, I ate, right? What did you do, right? I ate, or I I taught. This is my sentence, right? The corresponding interrogative sentence would be what did you teach? What did you teach? Right? It gives me some indication that my interrogative sentence is starting with what? Maybe to teach, it's a transitive verb. Okay, so apply it and see if it is starting with what or who, right? Similarly, let's say my sentence is Liz went to India. Okay, what will be the corresponding interrogative sentence here? Right? Your sentence could be probably did where did she go? You see it is starting with where, right? So if the corresponding interrogative sentence is starting with where, likelihood is that it's the verb that you have here to go, it's probably an intransitive verb. So I'm just giving you a short trick in case if it gets really difficult for you to figure out which verb is transitive or intransitive, right? So that's another way to look at it, right? Now come back to the original question here. He worked in a bank. In a bank is simple. You know, you have in a preposition in English and a postposition in Hindi would be bank mein. Bank mein. Now, don't think that where did he work? You know, and starting work becomes an intransitive verb. No, you just looked at the verb and the object. He worked, right? What did he do, right? So it's starting with what. That's why you have vah, which is your pronoun, okay, and vah, and then your verb is used in the past tense. So that's why you have ne after that, right? Vah plus ne is usne. So a lot of you tried that usne bank में काम, and then because it's worked, karna becomes kiya. काम is masculine, right? So it's काम किया. उसने बैंक में काम किया. A lot of you tried that. If you've done it, good job. You were able to identify ne. However, as I told you, you have to give like respect, right? If you're talking about someone elder, right? And that's why what will be the correct sentence here? Instead of vah, you will say ve and ne. And your sentence become उन्होंने. उन्होंने बैंक में उन्होंने बैंक में काम किया. उन्होंने बैंक में काम किया. There's nothing wrong with it, by the way. उसने बैंक में काम किया. Grammatically, it's absolutely correct. And if you're talking about your peer or your colleague, you can say that. So it was a long explanation. Let me take a pause to see if you have a question. So please feel free to write it down if you have any questions or comments. So the question is, so unhone is also used for he. It really depends, right? For example, if you're talking about me, like, you can say, we are probably the same age, right? So you can say, usne Hindi padhai, right? Or usne, काम किया. उसने बैंक में काम किया. उसने, um, एक कंपनी में काम किया. Right? You can refer to it as usne. However, as I said, to give respect, you are using it as ve, unhone, third person, right? Unhone. So, however, in general, way you used it if you're referring to a group of people, right? A group of people that, for example, if I'm talking about you guys, unhone Hindi padhi, right? I'm talking about a group of class, a group of student, right? That's right. You're right about that. Unhone you're referring to because like you want to give respect to the excuse me to the person you're talking about. All right. So I hope it is clear. I hope the explanation of transitive and intransitive verb is also clear. We will see more of those as we work on more examples. Okay. Um, The next sentence I have is when he was young. When he was young, he lived in Mexico City. Okay, so take your time and translate the sentence into Hindi. Again, this is an opportunity for you to tell me whether this is a transitive verb or intransitive verb. Just look at he and lived. There's a slight difference between, he used to live in Mexico City versus he lived in Mexico City. Just to kind of, Right. So most of you got it right. When he was young. So you'll say जब वे जवान थे. He, you know, he lived in Mexico City. वे Mexico City में रहते. Oh sorry. वे मेक्सिको सिटी में रहे. Okay. First common mistake, as you guys rightly pointed out, some of you use वह जब वह जवान and then you say था. Grammatically it's correct, but if you want to give respect, you will say जब वे जवान थे. And then again, third thing was like वह Mexico City. And then the form of the verb in some cases was kind of not correct, right? Again, if you looked at it, he lived, right? To live, there's no object who's receiving this action. He lived, he cried, he met, right? That's why it's intransitive verb. And whenever you're using intransitive verb in the past tense, you will not use ne. And that's why you have वे Mexico City. In Mexico City is Mexico City में, and then lived is रहे. Now, if it is your peer, you can say रहा. If it is you're talking about your mother, you can say रही. If you're talking about your sisters, multiple sisters, you can say रही. Feminine plural. For masculine plural, you will say रहे. But you're giving respect, that's why you're saying रहे. So वे Mexico City में रहे. However, if the sentence was he used to live in Mexico City, it would be much simpler, right? He used to live in Mexico City. वे Mexico City में रहते थे. Then there is no argument, right? Because you will simply follow your, the tenses pattern that you have learned. So good. Let's move on. Let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll keep, keep making progress here. So now the third one is here. He is referring to your dad here. He met my mom. Again, verb is to meet. To meet is milna, and it's used in the past tense. Okay. Again, you have to do the mental exercise whether to meet is a transitive verb or intransitive verb. So example, he met someone. Who did he meet? Right? It's starting with who. It's not starting with sorry, it's starting, you have he met. Um, Similar to, I mean, I think I gave this example. I met, I cried, the book fell. So take your time, translate this sentence into Hindi. Very good. Yeah, so to meet is intransitive verb. And even I sometimes make mistake, but here if you look at it, I met, there's no object who is receiving the action, right? Whereas like I ate banana, right? I mean, any action that the subject is performing on the work, like, it's directly received by the object. Even if I say I met someone, they're not really receiving any action out of it. Right? So the sentence would be yahan. Let me first write about how I would write it for my brother or for my peer. वह, यहाँ वह, my mom, मेरी माँ, with, right? माँ से, verb is milna. In the past, it will definite will be मिला. Yeah, right? यहाँ वह मेरी माँ से मिला. Now, you can argue that there is like, these two are basically kind of slightly like, you're talking about like your colleague or someone like that. So you can say यहाँ वे, which is like to give respect to your father, मेरी माताजी और माँ से मिले. यहाँ वे मेरी माँ से मिले. Again, like, you can say मिला for masculine singular. मिली for feminine singular. And mile for masculine, both actually, masculine plural also, feminine plural also you'll say mili. Mile for masculine plural. Right, for example, if you are saying I met my sister, if you're saying something like that, you'll say मैं अपनी बहन और sister से मिली. मैं अपने भाई से मिला. If I'm saying I met my brothers, right? मैं अपने भाइयों से sorry, again you're talking about I, right? So मैं अपने भाइयों से मिला, right? If you're talking about हम, like we met our brothers, हम अपने भाइयों से मिले, right? So we is masculine plural. Let me see if there are any questions or comments. So your sentence is right, Shamik. यहाँ वे मेरी माताजी से मिले. Okay, so I'll erase it and I'll we'll keep going further. Feel free to stop me whenever you have any questions or comments. Okay, the next thing is if you're talking about your father, a lot of you mentioned that they taught you something, right? So he taught me yoga. Simple sentence, right? Again, used in past indefinite. Don't again the sentence he used to teach me, it's different than he taught me, right? So take your time and translate this thing. To teach, to teach is so here to teach you can say padhana or sikhana. To learn is seekhna. Right? So he taught me yoga. So again, you have to see whether to teach is transitive or intransitive, right? Object is receiving the action, and also it's not explicit, but it's to me. Use the verb, sikhana. If you're talking about math or something like that, you can say you can use padhana. Um, and again, to give you a hint, it's a transitive verb. So to teach is a transitive verb. Okay. So he, because they are giving respect, you will say unhone. Right? Again, it's not explicit, but it's to me. Right? To me is mujhko. उन्होंने मुझको yoga, and then you have taught. So in present it's sikhana, right? वह मुझको yoga, and if you're saying in past, give me just 1 minute. Okay. उन्होंने मुझको yoga, and then it's basically the first part remained the same, and then सिखाया, right? In the past you're saying सिखाया. Yoga is masculine singular, that's why it's सिखाया, right? If you're saying सिखाई, it's a for feminine singular. If you're talking about उन्होंने मुझे cooking सिखाई, cooking is feminine, right? So I mean, at least in the skill, basically in Hindi, it's basically considered feminine, right? So cooking सिखाई, or biking, even biking is considered feminine. उन्होंने मुझे biking सिखाई. And if you're talking about something plural, सिखाइए, you know, उन्होंने मुझे, um, let me think about it. उन्होंने मुझे, um, for example, if I'm talking about numbers, numbers सिखाए, like counting. No, if you're talking about just counting, it's सिखाई, it's still feminine. For example, if you're talking about like let me think about like a clear one. I mean, you can say numbers सिखाए, you know. But again, come back to the original, sentence. He taught me yoga is उन्होंने मुझको योगा सिखाया. उन्होंने मुझको biking सिखाई, right? Or उन्होंने मुझको football. Like some of you said that, right? उन्होंने मुझे football. Football is also like feminine, so football सिखाई. और football खेलना सिखाया. To play football. और उन्होंने मुझको football खेलना नहीं सिखाया, right? So, okay. So let me see if you have any questions here. Okay. So I hope this is clear. You can pretty much use this template to kind of describe more about you know like Agnes also wrote a sentence that he taught us how to love each other, right? I mean, so you can use this template. उन्होंने उन्होंने हमको एक दूसरे से प्यार करना सिखाया. Right? So you can use those kind of phrases. Shamik used like football, like so you can say उन्होंने मुझको फुटबॉल खेलना सिखाया, or like उन्होंने मुझको फुटबॉल खेलना नहीं सिखाया to that extent, right? I mean, so similarly you can use this thing for for most of you use one way or another way, right? So right. Let's keep moving further. Any questions so far? I mean, I'm sure by the end of this class you will have more questions about, okay, how do I know which verb is transitive and which verb is intransitive? It's again like it's a tricky topic. Like so in Hindi, like I told you, there are certain things which are very tricky. Even I, as a teacher, I kind of struggle, which is like how do I know which object is masculine versus feminine? Right? That's a very standard question, right? How do I know which verb is transitive versus intransitive, right? So there are certain things, and in English it's clear, right? I mean, what's masculine, what's feminine, and some of the objects like table, pen, phone, they don't have any like form, right? I mean, in Sanskrit also there is a separate classification for it. In Hindi, everything is either masculine or feminine, right? So you have to use your verbs accordingly, your adjectives accordingly. Uh, so which makes it very tricky, right, for non-native speakers. Like, how do I know? Even for me, I just grew up learning about them. I never had any formula that, okay, bike is feminine, right? I just make a sentence and I kind of tell you that, bike is feminine versus school is, are different, right? I mean, or university is different. So, please follow along. There are certain tricks. There are certain way you can, like, when I taught you that, you can use your magic formula, kya, bike, or any object you're using, feminine hai, right? I mean, you can use these formula to ask the person you're speaking with, you know, so that way, not only you are finding out, you're also asking the question in Hindi. So there are certain tricks we can use. We cannot use this trick for, transitive and intransitive words, because most likely the person you're speaking with, they may or may not know the difference at the grammatical level, what is transitive and what is intransitive, right? I mean, we just learn grammar in school and then we forget it, right? I mean, so follow along. We'll do many more examples and we'll master this as well. But I do suggest that, in even in your native language, you look at the difference between transitive and intransitive, because that will kind of give you the good understanding. Like any your mother tongue, if you learn grammar in your mother tongue, it kind of, in my opinion, that sticks along, and you get the topic pretty quickly. Okay, so the next sentence is, now I'm going to shift gears, and from past I'm going to jump to present. He loves everyone in our family. So this should be straightforward. So take your time and translate this sentence. Okay. So he loves everyone in our family. So I would say first try this and then try this one. Or even if this is difficult, just try this. He loves. Just translate this one. He loves, and that will kind of like to love is प्यार करना. Okay, right? So most of you got it right, right? So this will be, he loves everyone. वह, everyone is सबको, right? To, वह सबको प्यार करते हैं. Or you can say वे सबको प्यार करते हैं. For singular you will say karta, because you're giving respect is करते हैं. In our family you will say हमारे परिवार may, right? And where do you use it? You'll use it right after the subject. So you say, either you say वह or वे हमारे परिवार में सबको प्यार करते हैं, और वे हमारे परिवार में सबको प्यार करते हैं. Okay, so I'll just do one more sentence, and then I'll take your comments, and then we'll conclude the class. I hope this is helpful for most of you. So last sentence is like he, and I'm going to change the form again back to past, but in this case he used to attend. So he used to attend all his children's games, concerts, etc. Just use, attend, just use it as a verb. In Hindi also just call, for time being just say attend karna. Take your time. Start with this sentence. He used to attend. Very good. Start simple. He used to attend. You can say वे, to give respect. वे attend करते थे. Wow, it's quite thick. वे attend करते थे. Right? Now you say attend करते थे. All his children, अपने, I'm just dissecting it, अपने बच्चों के, because you're talking about like children's apostrophe, right? If it is one thing, then it's ka. If it is feminine, it's ki. Because there are multiple things, it's ke. बच्चों के games. And then I'm gonna just keep going, right? So I'll just club everything together. It will be वे अपने बच्चों के all would be सारे games, concerts attend करते थे, right? So let me rewrite it again, and that's what Liz, when she wrote her essay, that was one of the sentences. So वह or वे, because you have his children's, right? You will, if you're saying uske, that's fine, or you can say unke also if you want to give respect. Unke बच्चों के. But because you're saying his own children, right? You will say apne, right? So वे अपने बच्चों के सभी games, or you say concerts, attend करते the. You can say like, why am I using attend here? It's English. Can I use Hindi? You can. You can say वे अपने बच्चों के सभी गेम्स और कॉन्सर्ट्स में शामिल होते थे. Right? शामिल होना. But you know, it's basically you say in those, right? So may you have to use in like a post position में शामिल होते